Abraham Shakespeare won the lottery jackpot, his life changing in an instant. But not long after, he mysteriously disappeared. People said that he was surrounded by money hunters who saw him as nothing more than a cash cow. And then Didi Moore appeared, a successful businesswoman who claimed to be Abraham's trustworthy friend. But was she really helping him? Or was there something darker hidden behind the facade? Plant City, Florida, January 26, 2010. One of the biggest mysteries in Tampa's history was about to be revealed. Dozens of reporters crowded together. Camera lenses pointed directly at a piece of land being excavated. Everyone was waiting for the answer to the question that had haunted the public for months. Abraham Shakespeare, the lottery millionaire who had vanished without a trace, was he still alive or already dead? 3 years after his life-changing win, Abraham suddenly went missing, and no one knew where he was. In November 2009, his family reported him to the police, but no one had any leads on his whereabouts. Nearly 2 months later, the case took a chilling turn. A mysterious excavation began after the police received information from none other than Abraham's close friend and financial advisor, Didi Moore. There were up to 30, maybe even 40 news crews gathered at the scene, eager to capture the first glimpse of what could be the ultimate proof of Abraham Shakespeare's fate. And as the last layer of soil was lifted, the truth began to emerge. Born in 1972 in Plant City, Florida, Doris Donegan, also known as Didi, always longed for a better life. As a child, she was an active member of women's Bible study classes, but as she grew older, she started feeling that something was missing. She became increasingly aware of her humble origins, a reality she tried to hide throughout her high school years. But instead of letting poverty hold her back, Didi nurtured an unrelenting determination. She was going to succeed at all costs. After graduating, Didi enrolled in training courses and became a certified nursing assistant, CNA. Not long after, she married James Moore, a man from Plant City, and 3 years later, they welcomed a son. But Didi didn't want to settle for a stable job. She wanted more. In 2004, fueled by her burning ambition, Didi started her own business and quickly found success. From a girl who grew up in poverty, she rose to become a wealthy and powerful woman. But Didi wasn't satisfied with simply enjoying her riches. She wanted to share her story, to inspire others with her journey from rags to riches by writing a book. And then, fate led her to Abraham Shakespeare, the man who had won millions in the lottery. This encounter not only changed Didi's life, but also marked the beginning of a horrifying mystery. Abraham Shakespeare grew up in Lakeland, Florida, in circumstances even harsher than Didi. He dropped out of school early, but instead of following the path of many other young men in the neighborhood who fell into gangs or drug addiction, Abraham chose to become a hard-working laborer. He was not an addict, nor was he a criminal, but his life seemed destined to be a constant struggle with meager wages. Until one day, everything changed. In October 2006, in a rare moment of luck, Abraham bought a lottery ticket at a convenience store. And no one could have imagined that the ticket would win him a $30 million jackpot. Choosing to receive a lump sum payment after taxes, Abraham took home approximately $12.7 million. From a manual laborer, he stepped into the world of millionaires. He bought a mansion in an upscale neighborhood, purchased a fleet of BMWs worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But fortune came quickly and disappeared just as fast. In less than 2 years of spending and generously lending money to friends, Abraham's bank account rapidly dwindled. By the end of 2008, when he met Didi Moore, he had only a little over $1 million left. This meeting was no coincidence. A mutual friend had arranged for Didi to meet Abraham, and immediately Didi realized he didn't need a writer to tell his story. He needed a financial manager. And Didi, with her extensive business experience, was ready to take on that role. Before long, Didi was not only helping Abraham manage his finances, but also assisting him in recovering up to $8 million stat he had lent to friends over the past 2 years. But did Didi truly want to help Abraham, or did she have an entirely different plan? This question could only be answered by the horrifying truth that followed. On November 9, 2009, a man named Cedric Adama walked into the police station with growing concern. His cousin, Abraham Shakespeare, the man whose life had changed after winning millions from the Florida lottery, had vanished without a trace. Cedric was not the only one who had borrowed money from Abraham, but unlike many others, he claimed to have fully repaid his debt. However, what was strange was that for the past 8 months, Cedric had not directly returned the money to Abraham, but had instead transferred it to a woman named Didi Moore. And now, after 7 months without any news from his cousin, Cedric decided to report Abraham's disappearance to the police. The police immediately launched an investigation, and the first person they sought out was Didi Moore. At that time, Didi had recently divorced, but more significantly, she had moved into the multi-million-dollar mansion that previously belonged to Abraham Shakespeare. When asked, Didi showed no signs of worry or secrecy. She explained that Abraham had voluntarily sold the house to her at his own request. Not only that, but he had also given her full control over most of his assets. She even provided a signed power of attorney from Abraham to prove her statement. Didi enthusiastically cooperated, providing all financial records related to Abraham. But there was one crucial question she could not answer. Where exactly was Abraham Shakespeare? According to Didi, Abraham had decided to keep his whereabouts a secret, even from her. But she insisted she was still in contact with him. To prove it right in front of the investigators, Didi pulled out her phone and sent a message. Abraham, everyone is looking for you. Please respond immediately. While waiting for a response from Abraham, the investigation team expanded their search. They began reaching out to his friends and family for clues. But what shocked the police was that no one had seen or heard from Abraham in months, not even his own mother, who hadn't seen her son for a long time. However, even though no one had actually made contact with Abraham, they heard countless rumors about him. Some people said he was in Jamaica. Others believed he was hiding in Orlando. But when the police traced the origins of these rumors, they discovered one common point. They all came from Didi Moore. The question arose, was Didi really helping Abraham hide for some reason, or was she concealing a more horrifying truth? In the following weeks, as investigators closely monitored Didi Moore, everything started shifting from strange to suspicious. The deeper the detectives investigated, the more they felt something was wrong. Initially, they thought this was just a missing person case, but over time, a more terrifying suspicion emerged. Was Abraham Shakespeare even still alive? A crucial discovery surfaced on April 6, the time Abraham was believed to have disappeared. Before that, his phone had been working normally, but after that day, everything abruptly changed. Abraham's phone wasn't completely silent, but investigators noticed something odd. Every time Abraham sent a message or contacted Didi, both phones connected to the same cell tower. This couldn't be a coincidence. It suggested that Didi Moore was likely in possession of Abraham's phone and was using it to mislead people. But even though they suspected her, there was still no direct evidence proving that Didi had killed him. So was Abraham really in hiding, or had something terrible happened? 2 days before Christmas, after months without any sign of Abraham, the police decided to confront Didi once again this time. They wouldn't let her easily escape their tough questions, and this time they were determined to make her tell the truth. On Christmas Eve 2009, after more than 8 months of disappearance, something unexpected happened. It seemed that someone other than Didi Moore had finally heard from Abraham Shakespeare. Abraham's mother received a mysterious phone call. The voice on the line claimed to be her son, but the call ended quickly. Even stranger? The call came from a private number, making it untraceable. Less than 24 hours later, investigators took action. They tracked the GPS signal from the phone call and traced it to a shopping mall in Lakeland. Without hesitation, they rushed to the scene. When they arrived, they spotted something familiar, Didi Moore's car parked in the lot. At that moment, Didi was meeting a man, handing him something before quickly leaving. Investigators immediately approached. Could this be the elusive Abraham Shakespeare they had been searching for? But as they got closer, they quickly realized a shocking truth. The man in the car was not Abraham. It was Greg Smith. When questioned, Greg revealed that Didi had just paid him $5,000 to call Abraham's mother and pretend to be her son. But Greg had no knowledge of Abraham's actual whereabouts. He simply believed the millionaire was in hiding to avoid those searching for him. However, when investigators revealed the truth, that they suspected Abraham was dead and that Didi Moore might be responsible, Greg made a decision that changed everything. He agreed to cooperate with the police. Mid-January, 2 weeks after Greg Smith agreed to cooperate, the Polk County Sheriff held a shocking press conference. He announced that the disappearance of Abraham Shakespeare was now considered a murder case, and the prime suspect was Didi Moore. Didi reacted with complete surprise, claiming she was utterly shocked by the accusation. But just a few days later, she proactively reached out to Greg Smith, and that was her biggest mistake. Greg immediately reported to the investigators, and they quickly devised a trap. They instructed Greg to call Didi back, mentioning someone with a drug-related criminal record in the federal system, someone who could take the fall for Abraham's death. Didi took the bait instantly. She wanted a meeting. On January 21, the meeting took place. But there was one thing Didi was unaware of. The man she believed would take the blame for her was actually an undercover police officer. During the meeting, Didi was cautious but couldn't entirely hide the truth. She insisted that the police were trying to set her up, but vaguely admitted that Abraham was dead. However, she also added something strange. He will return. He will return on Christmas. But then Didi revealed her true nature. She offered to pay the man to take the blame. She was willing to pay any amount, but the undercover officer didn't stop there. He continued to press her, pushing Didi to reveal details about the murder and the location of Abraham's body. Didi hesitated, but eventually said, "Let me see if I can find out." That sentence was enough to mark a turning point in the investigation. The trap was closing in, and Didi Moore's time was running out. 4 days later, on January 25, Didi Moore arranged another meeting with Greg Smith. But this time, she didn't just bring words, she brought deadly evidence. In her hands was a .38 caliber Wesson revolver. She handed it to Greg without hesitation. Then she drove to a house in Plant City, a house she had purchased using Abraham Shakespeare's money. Upon arrival, Didi pointed to a specific spot and coldly said, "His body is right here." Greg Smith knew he had just obtained the most crucial piece of evidence. He immediately reported to the Polk County Sheriff. Less than 24 hours later, investigators arrived, quietly beginning excavation, while dozens of reporters from across Central Florida watched their every move. The search lasted nearly 48 hours. And then, on January 28, the horrifying truth was finally revealed. Abraham Shakespeare's body had been found. Identified through fingerprints, the medical examiner concluded that Abraham had been shot twice in the chest. As the news spread, grief filled the air. His family was present at the scene, their cries echoing through the crowd, "God will bring justice." But investigators didn't have to look far for the prime suspect. The moment Abraham's body was discovered, Didi Moore did something no one expected. She called the police herself. "We need to talk." At the investigation office, Didi gave a dramatic account. She claimed that the person who killed Abraham wasn't her, but a man named Ronald. According to Didi, one night in April, Abraham walked into her office with Ronald and another drug dealer. They demanded money from a safe, but everything quickly spiraled out of control. Abraham argued with them. Then they shot him. Didi continued, claiming that the killers took all the money from the safe, forced her to transfer more, and even pointed a gun at her face. "I was so scared," she emphasized, trying to convince investigators that she was just another victim. But this time, no one believed her anymore. Didi's story might change, but the evidence did not. The interrogation ended, and shortly after, the Polk and Hillsborough County Police worked together to finalize the arrest warrant. Since Abraham Shakespeare's body was found, reporters had swarmed the crime scene. But they didn't stop there. They also camped outside Didi Moore's house, waiting for any movement from the woman suspected of being a murderer. Then, on February 2, surrounded by cameras, Didi finally emerged. No more avoiding, no more hiding, she faced the media. A defiant, yet emotional Didi. Sometimes, everyone has moments of feeling terrible. She choked. She cried, her voice trembling. But were those tears of remorse, or just another performance? After her final words, Didi got into her car, preparing to leave as dozens of cameras captured every moment. But she didn't know that this ride wouldn't take her home. The moment she started her car, she was blocked. Police swarmed in. Right then and there, Didi Moore was officially arrested, charged with first-degree murder. Tampa, Florida, November 28, 2012. Under the glaring lights of the Hillsborough County courtroom, Didi Moore was led in. The once glamorous woman with golden blonde hair now looked more haggard than ever after nearly 3 years in custody. Today, she stood trial for the most ruthless crime, murder for money. Prosecutors wasted no time, opening with a sharp statement. Didi Moore took advantage of Abraham Shakespeare's kindness, easily manipulating him due to his lack of financial knowledge. And when she could no longer drain him of money, she chose the quickest and most ruthless way to take everything by killing him. To prove this, they called a financial expert who had meticulously analyzed every account belonging to Didi Moore and Abraham himself. Bank statements, checks, and transactions showed that by the spring of 2009, Didi had complete control over Abraham's remaining lottery winnings. She spent lavishly like a queen: Dom Perignon champagne, Rolex watches, diamond jewelry, a $90,000 Corvette, and luxurious vacations from Las Vegas to New York. But the key turning point in the case came on December 5, when a crucial witness, Abraham's former personal assistant, took the stand. She recounted that in late March 2009, Abraham had frantically come to her. He told her he had tried to withdraw money from the bank, but discovered that his account had been emptied. Completely devastated, Abraham realized that his financial advisor, the person he had trusted, was actually the one who had stolen all his remaining money. Determined not to stay silent, this witness called Didi directly, confronting her about the fact that Abraham had discovered the truth. Just a few days later, on April 6, 2009, Abraham Shakespeare vanished forever. Although there were no direct witnesses to the murder, prosecutors believed they had pieced together enough evidence to reconstruct the chilling truth of how Didi Moore murdered Abraham Shakespeare. They admitted that no one had seen the exact moment Didi pulled the trigger, but her own words had inadvertently provided a solid theory. Didi had told investigators that a mysterious drug cartel had shot Abraham right in her office and stolen all the money from the safe. But prosecutors asserted no such cartel existed. There was only Didi Moore and Abraham Shakespeare. According to the prosecution's theory, on that fateful day, Abraham had gone to Didi's office. As he walked in, she opened the safe, making it seem as if she was about to give him his money. But instead of pulling out a stack of cash, she took out a gun. 2 gunshots rang out. Abraham collapsed. Then Didi began erasing the evidence. A search of her office after her arrest revealed crucial evidence. A portion of the carpet had been cut out, and when analyzed, investigators found traces of blood soaked into the floor. DNA analysis confirmed it was Abraham Shakespeare's blood. The final and most damning piece of evidence, the .38 caliber revolver that Didi had given to Greg Smith, the police informant. When examined, the bullets recovered from Abraham's body were a perfect match for that gun. On December 10, 2012, the Florida jury delivered its final verdict in the trial of Didi Moore. The former nursing assistant and 40-year-old businesswoman was convicted of first-degree murder. After days of intense deliberation, they needed no more time to consider. The decision was clear. Didi Moore was found guilty of murdering Abraham Shakespeare. Her sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. From a woman who once lived lavishly off her victim's fortune, Didi Moore now faced the rest of her life behind bars, a place with no diamonds, no luxury cars, and no more lies to cover up her crime.